You're watching the 6:15 primetime newscast in the English language on Canal, the International. Thanks for joining us. My name is Gladys Ambodiban. Stay tuned for our major stories. As part of efforts to curb disorder and traffic in the eastern outskirts of the nation's capital, Yaoundé, local administrative authorities have been urged to create new market space, land for the stationing of heavy trucks, and remove loading posts at filling stations. And with just a few more days to the start of the new school year, the burden of military offerings have been lightened. Hundreds of them in Douala and Yaoundé have received school material that will permit them resume classes for the 2022-2023 academic year without difficulties. And 338,000 new voters have enrolled on the electoral list this 2022, amongst them 211,000 men, 126,919 women, and 246,669 youths. Amongst them, you have 305 with disabilities. The statistics were made known today during an evaluation of the 2022 enrollment process after the registers closed for the year on August 31, 2022. Those were our headlines. Stay tuned for developments. Hello, thanks for joining us once again on the Primetime Newscast in the English language. Local authorities in the Nkwambang and Kolofamba subdivisions in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, as well as Mefwa and Afamba division, all in the central region, have been urged to create new market space, land for stationing of heavy-duty vehicles, and remove loading ports or posts at filling stations. The call was made by the governor of the central region, Nasiri Paul Beya, during a consultation meeting with elites and the population that is today to curb disorder and traffic in the eastern outskirts of Yaoundé. The details with Beatrice Gama.
Morning, like night rush at Carrefour Nkwambang in the eastern outskirts from Yaoundé, one of survival of the fittest. The queues of yellow cabs, logging trucks, bike riders, personal cars, combined with commercial space, street vendors, bayam selam, like pedestrians, daily nightmare of traffic that impacts the economy. Situation very disturbing to the local and regional administration. Reason for the consultation with the elites and population Thursday that ended with the following possible solutions.
One of the solutions is for the market. There are other three markets which are not recognized by the council. All the traders will move to where the council has provided. Secondly, those who illegal parks where people around the petrol stations have to stop and go out of town. Thirdly, the council has to look for other land to be able to have places where those trucks that carry goods can come and wait till 6 p.m. before the start of loading.
The authorities at Kolofamba, Mefwa and Afamba division of the central region are to ensure its implementation.
The population, the traders have 1 week to go to the new market.
Importance for Governor Nasiri Paul Biya, flanked by his collaborators to reach out to the concerned population at the Carrefour Nkwambang and nearby markets. Saluted at one point, but rejected again by the traders as bad timing on the eve of school resumption.
Parce que le gouverneur a fait preuve de venir en Nkwambang aujourd'hui, donc nous voulons un marché public pour un placement. On ne peut même pas aller à l'entrée derrière.
Moi, je n'apprécie pas parce qu'on nous casse le temps de la rentrée.
In a month's time, Governor Nasiri Paul Biya reiterates to be back for assessment.
And with just 72 hours to the start of the new school year, internally displaced children of the armed conflicts are gnashing their teeth on how the new academic year will look like. Some of the children who benefited from free holiday classes have received new school material from persons of goodwill. But what remains largely insufficient as children continue to look out for help. Regina Leketanda tells us more.
They are children displaced by the armed conflict in the northwest and southwest region. For weeks, the children, some orphaned by war, have been partaking in the free holiday classes year in Mabanda Douala 4. To mark the end of the holiday classes, they have received gifts from good persons ahead of back to school. This crisis in our neighboring regions affects us all. So at any time, someone can help, he should help. According to UNESCO, more than 900,000 children are out of school as a result of the armed conflict in the Anglophone regions of Cameroon. Figures which, according to other bodies, is doubled. Barely hours to back to school, most of these children are in a difficult position in terms of acquiring school needs.
And still talking about back to school, close to 70 children, predominantly from families whose parents were killed in different operations at the war front, have received school material in Douala today. A ceremony presided at by the General of the 2nd Military Region with backing from the Commander of the 2nd Gendarmerie Region. Morinzi was at that ceremony. And tells us.
I feel so excited having received the gift as a support from the government for us to go back to school.
4 years after the death of her parents on the battleground, life has not been easy for Banwe Solange and her siblings.
Been about 3 to 4 years since I lost my dad, and it's not been easy. It's really been hard on us. Even going to school, getting books, it's not been easy. So I really like to also plead on the government that if they can do this, at least a little token, we accept it. But if they can go a long way to sponsor and educate us in school, it will be a long way to support the parents, because at times when they lost their fathers or when we lost our fathers at the war front, we find it difficult to continue education.
Solange tells me pursuing her education has been a nightmare as a mother can't cope with the high bills that includes feeding, clothing and buying of their school needs. It is a similar cry expressed by close to 69 orphans at the 2nd Military Base in Douala, September 1, 2022.
Parents did everything possible to make us happy, and they sacrifice their life for the country.
Je me sens bien. Je suis navrée que mon père soit mort, mais je reste avec ma mère et ma famille. L'administration est là pour me garder, donc je suis fière.
In a purely military tradition, the orphans received their back-to-school package from the hands of the commander of the 2nd Military Region, General Eba Bed Benoit, and the commander of the 2nd Gendarmerie Legion, General Eko Ngwese Divine. An initiative of the Ministry of Defense to ease the pains of children, predominantly from families whose dads and moms were killed in different operations in the war. The overwhelmed children have pledged to work hard and make their parents proud while their memories live on.
And a similar ceremony took place in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, on August 31, where hundreds of military orphans received school equipment ahead of the new school year. Haisenchia tells us more.
Their parents fell in the line of duty during various operations to preserve the territorial integrity and the security of the Cameroonian people. And today, the government can only say thank you through their children with a symbolic support of school items.
Head of State, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, His Excellency Paul Biya, personally sees the legal and moral support and supervision of the families of military personnel who have fallen in the line of duty.
The didactic materials and cash aid handed to the children of the Defense and Security Forces here at the Ngwaikele Military Base in Yaoundé this August 31st by the Minister Delegate at the Presidency in charge of Defense, Joseph Betia Somo, flanked by other cabinet ministers, is to enable them move from the sad memories and towards building a meaningful future.
In these widens leverage and opportunities to their children so that in turn they may in the future be authors of development in various positions in the national socio-economic sector.
The gesture highly appreciated by the needy children as that which will help cure the back-to-school fever in their lone parents.
It's going to help my mother very much because it's not easy. She's alone, paying fees, buying the books and everything. So it's going to reduce her financial expenses a lot.
The over 100 beneficiaries returning home happily, sure of hitting the school doors this September 5th.
And the Elections Management Body, ELECAM, has made an evaluation of the 2022 enrollment process after the registers were closed for the year. The Elections Management Board is reported to have made positive strides in wooing young Cameroonians into registering for the very first time. Kejeng Harriet Tembe reports.
Elections Cameroon has made an appraisal of the enrollment process on the electoral register for the year 2022, with the closure of the enrollment on August 31 as prescribed by the law. The Director General of Elections Cameroon, Enrique Sousa, expressed satisfaction on the number of new enrollment while on an evaluation on September 1 in Douala.
At the end of this operation, we enrolled 338,370 electors, among which are 211,457 men, 62%, 126,919 women, 38%, 246,669 youth, 73%, 305 persons with disabilities, 0.09%.
According to Elections Cameroon, they adopted a strategy to woo Cameroonians by involving political parties, elected representatives, the citizens, the administration in the sensitization process that targeted young people who participated for the first time in the process.
Emphasis was placed this year on the enrollment of youth citizens, which explains why enrollment operations were launched in the University of Yaoundé 1 and 2. In general, the 2022 revision was conducted under good conditions at the level of fixed or mobile voter enrollment centers.
Elections Cameroon will open its registers again for the enrollment come January 1, 2023.
And moderators of programs and call-in programs on radio and television in Cameroon have been schooled on how to assume their responsibility while handling the programs. The initiative of the National Communication Council, dubbed the NCC Coffee Talk, is to enable journalists in charge of programs to master how to moderate these programs. Omo Kusumi with more.
Radio-like television debates and call-in programs in the country are often rife with out-of-place insults, defamation and fake and incorrect information, which those in charge of the moderation not assuming their responsibility of handling the conversation which they convene. Source of warning and sanctions from the National Communication Council.
And because of that, we thought that we should maybe invite older hands, more experienced journalists, to talk to them about this professional ethics in that domain and what they do and what we think they should be doing better in their moderation exercise in the programs which they handle.
The new concept, NCC Coffee Talk, by the chairman of the National Communication Council, is to change the trend.
So we have noticed that the moderators are not assuming the responsibility of handling the conversations which they convene either every evening or once in a week.
Older hands, those more experienced talk show journalists, were invited to drill the other journalists on the professional ethics in that domain. What they do, what the NCNC think they should be doing better in their moderation exercise in the program which they handled. Some 30 journalists were part of the very informal capacity building session Wednesday in Yaoundé. Douala and Bafoussam will be the next rendezvous towns.
And in sports, the CK Festive Food Tournament in Banjul in the west region of Cameroon has rounded up in grand style. The finals of the Holiday Football Tournament took place at the Futso Victor Stadium with more than 3,000 spectators to feed their eyes with the memorable event. Let's leave the highlights of the competition with Hycentia.
Total celebration for Just Flow FC, winner of both the championship and the cup of this 5th edition of the Seka Festive Food Tournament in Banjul. A final at the Fosso Victor Municipal Stadium in a night match and before the watchful eyes of more than 3,000 spectators. They clinched their victory over Fogema FC through post-match penalty shootout after a 1-1 tie at regular playing time.
Les enfants ont donné ce qu'ils pouvaient.
My players gave in their best, but luck wasn't on our side. We have lost 2 finals against the same opponent. This is a motivation for us to prepare hard for the next edition. Last year, we were booted out during the first round, but this year, we had our objective to play the final. Here we are as winners. And in the early hours of the day, this August 27, the public is treated with a show of musical artists with guest stars like Wato de Souza. Folk dance groups also grace the stage before the gala match between the Association of Young Transporters of Banjul against the Young Sand Dealers. And in the stadium to leave the memorable event were a cream of personalities led by the divisional officer for Pomonia, the first deputy mayor, the divisional delegate of sports and physical education for Konki, and the sponsor of Seka Festive Food, Honorable Albert Quinche. At a point, I felt like I was watching a first division match. It is the first time that the final is played in a standard stadium. We thank the states for the AFCON because we are today reaping the fruits of the AFCON in a very beautiful manner. It is undoubtedly an edition that kept all the promises. For a month and a half, Banjul has vibrated with beautiful football on 3 sides. The Carpete Public School Stadium, that of St. Joseph College, and the magnificent Fosso Victor Stadium, which hosted the opening match, as well as the finals, this Saturday, August 27th. A proof of the dynamism of the Seka Festive Food concept, always in the quest for perfection. When you have a project as such, and you see it growing as years pass by, with more partners and sponsors coming in, as well as more spectators in the stadium, you can only be a satisfied and happy promoter. The level of the players during this 5th edition was remarkable, and the participation was massive. The final, the best of all the editions. A total of 14 teams took part in the tournament with 15 games played, and the winners as well as the finalists received cash prizes worth more than 1.5 million CFA francs. All these made possible thanks to the numerous partners, including Rinapro Finance SR, Les Insecticides Tom Leo, and the leading television channel, Canal 2 International.
It is with that advertorial that we wrap up this edition of the Primetime Newscast in the English language on Canal. The International, the French edition will be yours at 7:50 p.m. with Alain Ghislain Kanga. Up next is Debrief de l'Actualité with Lil Piedju. I will be yours again tomorrow, same time, God willing. Bye-bye.